Hello, welcome to the second part of my story of how I left the religion of the Jehovah's Witnesses. Well, my name is Danilo. If you haven't watched the first video, I'll just encourage you to go watch the first one before you continue with this one for you to be on track. Anyway, thank you for being here. Without any further ado, let's move in. Okay, so I left the where I immigrated to Canada for studies. For context, at that point, I was inactive. I stopped all activities related to the religion. So, no preaching, no meetings. I stopped my Bible study, but I managed to progress to the point of unbaptized publisher. I was an unbaptized publisher at that time, but not doing, not wanting to have, not having that zeal, for the religion. Yeah, because of my psychological state. But at that point, my mental state was ameliorating itself. Yes, I can say so. And my mother and my grandmother, they were there. They were loving and supporting me throughout that journey. I came to Canada. I was late for my studies, so I had that to focus on. I was not, like I said, I wasn't kind of enthusiastic to like go back to the village, to resume everything back. I just wanted to be on my own, because I was in a new country, new environment, new climate. So I had to adapt. I needed time for that as well. And I wanted to focus on my studies too. But that and all those teachings, about the religion was still ingrained in me. So all those publications that I've read, those inputs, everything was still there. And then for me, it was the truth. Of course, it was the truth. I just considered myself at that time just being unstable. But I said, okay, when everything will be back together again, I will resume everything. So it was the truth for me, the right religion. And I felt guilty that I was willingly refraining from going back to Jehovah, returning to Jehovah, they usually say. So yeah, I had that guilt feeling that, oh, Danilo, you need to start everything back, contact the brothers, go back to the Kingdom Hall, attend meetings. Yeah, that was there too. And I struggled with that for like a couple of weeks at first, like I'll just say few weeks. And when I came, I lived in Mississauga. I was living in Mississauga. I lived there for 3 months with my older cousin. While there, one night I just found myself searching for Kingdom Halls nearby. So I could locate one. I went to that congregation twice, and I relocated from Mississauga to North York. I came to North York. I again looked for that. Actually, guilt pulled me back to the religion. So in North York, I found another congregation. The congregation was nice. I attended a couple of meetings, but I wanted to resume the study again with a brother that I met over there. But my address, my location was not in their territory, right? So it wasn't quite feasible. So the elders advised me to go in another congregation where my location is in their territory, right? Anyway, so I changed congregation again, right? To my final congregation, the last congregation that I will attend. I'll eventually be in before leaving. In that congregation, first meeting, memorial, I met an older couple. We directly connected, because they have been missionaries in my home country for like years. And we connected, and especially with the brother. And that brother will play an instrumental role in helping me progress to the point of baptism. That's how I started back. That's how, before you know it, I was back in the religion again. And then I dreaded field service, going out and evangelizing, preaching to people. That's what I feared the most. But I resumed that too. Yes, that brother was very nice. And then we resumed the study. Sorry, resumed the study, not resumed back. Okay. And yeah, everything was going well. And I was kind of happy to be back in Jehovah's family. I explained to the brothers and sister why I was to the elders, sorry, why I was inactive for a period of time. They understood, but still, we had a meeting about that. And anyway, so they announced me in that congregation, and I was very happy that they, oh, the attention and everything. So, and it felt good, right? So at a point I said, okay, the next goal will be baptism. So at a point during the study, I told the brother that he was an elder. Yeah, brother was an elder. I said, okay, I want to get baptized. I'm serious. I want to get baptized. He said, oh, wow, that's great. Nothing prevents you from being baptized. He told me, informed the body of elders. I was examined. I passed the exam, and I was qualified for baptism. Happy. I was baptized in November 2023, right? All of that while, studying and working at the same time. So I was baptized, and at the day I was baptized, everyone was happy in the congregation because most of them knew my story, what I've been through, the obstacles I've been through to be a Jehovah's Witness. So I can still vividly remember their face beaming, with joy, right? When I was baptized that day, myself, I was so happy, yeah, to be in Jehovah's place. Little did I know that I will leave. Like that's that's crazy. But yeah, I was also so happy. But after baptism, I noticed that, yeah, the that zeal that I had at first, that zeal that I wanted to know more about the religion. I was reading publication, reading all these, watching videos, being serious in the religion. Well, that zeal wasn't there again, like at first, right? But yeah, I was still, I was happy. So, and after the baptism, I had this strong feeling to please the elders as well. I wanted to please them. I was wanted to be seen as a good brother, right? As, someone very spiritual. Because one thing that congregation I was in admired in me was my comments, right? I was very serious about my comments, and they liked it to be an elder. Some brothers and some matured sisters in the congregation told me that I see you as a secret overseer. I see you as a good elder, as a fine shepherd. I was like, okay. Before even getting baptized, I had the responsibilities or in the audio and sound department, roving the mics, handling the sound at the meetings, making sure everything is okay. And then later on, I had another privilege, which is reading the book we study at the congregation Bible study at the midweek meeting, right? Yes, and of course that was proof, and for me, that I was doing everything right. That, yeah, everything was okay. But I had always these questions at the back of my mind, questions about, doctrines and teaching that you find it very difficult to reconcile, but I would just say, okay, no matter what, I'm in the truth, right? I'm in the truth. I've been through all these obstacles to be here. I cannot. This is, yeah. I'll just push it at the back of my mind, and that actually will make me reluctant to research, to do research, and actually understand those teachings that wasn't clear for me. One thing was blood. One big thing was blood. Another big thing that disturbed me later on, and that was really big, was this fellowshipping and shunning. And also there was 1914 as well. So 1914 later on became, for me, it was something that, okay, if I make research, I will understand eventually. So, but blood was something like big, kind of. I always wondered what will happen if I'm in a situation, or maybe a family member, one of my family members are in a situation where they need a medical intervention. What will I do? That kind of frightened. It always scared me. Yeah. What will I do? Will I obey Jehovah, obey what the governing body say through the publication, or obey my conscience? Yeah. Like, what will I do, kind of. So that is something that really scared. And I was thinking about so many people that made that choice, and they decided to, but yeah, that was something that disturbed me, as yeah. And it was not, but I was reluctant to make research about it. So there came a point where I think I was progressing. I was doing well based on what the elders were telling me, doing well in the handling my assignments, every making sure I do my part, right? In the meetings and everything, right? Making sure everything is okay. If there was cleaning, I was there. Something to do with the Kingdom Hall, I was there. They needed help, assist, I was there, So always reaching out, reach out. Hey, who can I send? Isaiah said, send me. Jehovah, send me. So I was in that mood, And yes, so for what actually made me to leave, it's not kind of something, a one time thing that you find and then you said, oh, I'm going to leave. No, it's a gradual process. It's an accumulations of things, of research, discoveries, uh, saying, comments that you see and you hear, you notice. Those things, they compound, and at the end you say, oh, I didn't yeah, I did not research, I didn't know this, like, why is this like this, why is this, like, you start asking yourself questions. So it's a gradual process. So I'll just enumerate few of them, sorry. When I was resuming back everything in that congregation, when I was still new in that congregation, I believe before I was being announced, at first when I started to resume field service, that brother one day came and picked me up, right? Because he was the one that was picking me up to go to the meetings and field service. But by then I had my beard. So back at that point, the clarification about beard was not yet out. That update, it wasn't out yet. But that day, he had beard, still had my beard. Yeah, came and picked me up. As we're about to go, he pulled me over at the back of the car. He told me that, brother, like, he actually called me out about my facial hair and said, okay, it's not appropriate, or you can go like that, and if you want, your house is nearby, you can go shave and we'll be waiting for you. He was there, he came with his wife, and I was already discouraged, right? I was already discouraged. I said, like, why will my beard be a problem, if we're going to preach the good news? I said, okay, not a problem. He's an elder. He wants me to be appropriate, Jehovah wants me to be good looking in the to represent him in the field service, so the message can be that there will be nothing that can hinder the message. I went and shaved my I went and shaved, and then we went out in field service. But I was that created a crack. And then another time during a meeting, there was in the part of the life part. The subject was on the DPA card, and at that point, I was already asking questions about that DPA card and blood stuff, because that was something that didn't sit well with me. And the brother eventually was encouraging everyone to have a DPA card. For those who don't know, the DPA card actually is I think, the legal document that um, permits you, that speak for you in case you are incapacitated to do that, right? In especially for blood issues, yeah, that's the purpose of blood issues. If you're not able to speak for yourself, the DPA card will speak for you, and there'll be witnesses, of course. So he encouraged everyone to have a DPA card. At the end of the meeting, then he asked me, though, Dino, do you have your DPA card? I said, no, I don't have. He said, okay, not a problem. He rushed to the publication decks, went and take a DPA card and wanted to give me. I was reluctant to take it, of course, but I took it. And at that point, I said, okay, I think I really need to research this thing well, because this fellowshipping and shunning also was troubling for me a time, because I was hearing stories about people that it affected a lot. So there was a time where I actually decided to do research about that, and then I read a publication in I think the appendix of the God's Love book, talking about the article that talks about this fellowshipping. I read that, and it was enough to convince me that, okay, that is right. It's actually a loving provision from Jehovah. But later on, I decided to do again more research about that when I watched a documentary online about the practice, this fellowshipping practice. So after watching that documentary, I again went in deep into researching that policy, and that's actually how it started. I also researched 1914 eventually, and all the teachings that surrounds 1914. My research started ending of 2024 till 2025. It took like months, yes, for me to untangle all of that. And it wasn't only those these teachings that I'm talking about. There was so much more. And then as the research progressed, one question leads to four. At the point I found myself with all these cupboards, figurative cupboards that were open that I couldn't answer, right? And that was a problem. When I was when I started that phase, I actually stopped commenting at the meeting. I slowed down. Yeah, I was slowly fading, but I was still there. I was going, but I wasn't involved again as I used to be. And I started watching videos online about people who left the religion, because I asked myself at the point, hey, like, why will someone leave the true religion? Why would someone leave the truth? Like, if it's the truth, like, why would someone? I was curious. I wanted to know why will people, why people will leave the religion. Like, why will you leave the truth? You have the truth. Why will you go? Like, so I decided to watch video. I remember the first, like, many people most of you watching the video probably can relate to that. The first time I watched a video, actually, I was watching like small shots on YouTube about, clips about, videos that they will like put quote unquote apostate videos. I'll watch that and I'll be like, no, no, no. I was scared. Like, I was scared of, like, I was doing something bad. I was, displeasing to Jehovah. This is displeasing to Jehovah. I cannot watch these. Like, these people are lying, and I'm in the right religion. So all of this is like Satan influence. But I was scared in the beginning of those videos. Scared, very afraid. Yeah, but with time, I started to watch bit by bit, little by little, until now. Yes, I understood. Actually, I will not kind of specifically talk about everything maybe that I researched or found out, or what actually made me to leave, because some I'm sure some witness will watch this video and say, yeah, is this the only reason why you left the religion? Is it the only, so this is, no, they'll start like, they'll make like, okay, it is nothing, or this, because for them there is no good reason to leave the religion. There is no matter the reason you come up with, that okay, this is why I'm leaving this religion. For them there's nothing, you know it is Jehovah's organization, that's it, you have to stay. You have to, so no. I read the book of Raymond Franz, Crisis of Conscience. I read also the other part, a huge portion of the book, In Search of Christian Freedom. I also read the Gentle Time Reconsidered. And yes, the one thing that actually um, disturbed me profoundly in the book of Raymond Franz, Crisis of Conscience, was the alternative service. That one was big for me. The alternative service. I just asked myself, like, how can this happen? Like, how can this be possible? Why will ah the countless people that the countless witness that went to prison because of that, like, for me, and so many other things. So I would not say everything in detail here, right? No, because yeah, like I said, they will say, oh, this is war. But yeah, so I did research a lot of them, and I made a list of all the subjects, and a list of all the subject and teachings. I didn't sit well with me. That did not. I had problem reconciling. I made research, extensive research, not only inside the paper but outside. I actually allowed myself to research outside of the publications, and I did a lot of them. So, and at the end, that was enough for me. So, and at first I didn't tell to nobody. I was still in contact with some witness back in my home country, but eventually I told them later, and till now no contact. So, but anyway, I informed the elders. The tried the That brother was so pain. because I was just like a son to him and him like a father to me. So we became really, really close. And for me too, it was also emotional. I knew it will hurt him, and it actually hurt him seeing me having doubts about the religion and eventually leaving, right? I chose the route of disassociation. Yeah, I chose to disassociate myself because I wanted just a clean cut from the religion. Yeah, I didn't want to fade. I didn't want to be inactive. No, I just wanted to leave. After all I found out, I just wanted to go. But anyway, I won't describe everything here, but it's just crazy. Everything that if you like all your everything that you've believed, like everything just falls down like a house of cards. So, but you have to move on. I mailed in my letter of disassociation to the body of elders. They received it, and I was announced as no longer one of Jehovah's Witnesses in June, on June 11th. Yes, that's the date. June 11, 2025. That's when I was announced in the Kingdom Hall as no longer one of Jehovah's Witnesses. So, what I found out about also, I talked about alternative service. So many things I found also that in the Book of Christ of Conscience that actually was like, no. And also, what I found out about the policy, the fellowshipping and shunning, the countless people that suffered, because of that policy, because of that doctrine, because your beliefs don't align, because you choose your conscience and you want to live an authentic life. You see all your that social network leave you, like family members not talking to you, man. That was crazy. I just said no, I cannot support, but I'm talking while smiling like that because I'm someone that likes to smile. But yeah, it was for me. I just said no, I cannot support this system again. I cannot support this system. I heard things and stories, like I was just like no, no, no. I made research, saw things, listened to people testimonies and stories. Man, that's just crazy, crazy, crazy stories. Parents not talking to their children not talking to their parents. The case of Barbara Anderson and so many others, right? Like, anyway. So that is, yeah, if I can say one thing is that thing that it hurt me a lot. But yeah, I decided to leave because, like Ramon Frank, I really had a crisis of conscience. I really had a crisis. And also the predictions in the past that failed. Ah man, and I will I will compile this, put everything in a memoir, and release it soon. So stay tuned. But anyway, this is just a brief story of, I know I say brief, but it's quite like a little bit long. But anyway, I hope you enjoy. Yeah. But I wouldn't say everything because yeah, Jehovah's Witness they'll watch and say, "Oh, this the one." No, they have to find it for themselves. If someone wants to know, let them do their own research. Let them do their own research and homework, and they'll see for themselves. So, and thank you so much for watching. Thank you, and yeah, we'll see perhaps on the next video. Thank you.